Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I rise to adjourn about the disgust and arrogance and lack of honesty and poor behaviour displayed by members in this chamber this week. I'm at a loss, Madam Speaker, of how to describe this poor behaviour and the lack of leadership and respect shown by members opposite. From the way fellow parliamentary members have been disrespectful toward each other and literally trying to spout mistruths in every other way would be commonly known as a lie. There is an old saying, Madam Speaker, that the standard you walk by is the standard you accept. Well, Madam Speaker, I will no longer accept the poor behaviour being displayed towards me and my team, and indeed the crossbench. The rude comments and the blatant disrespect being displayed by CLP members in the chamber this week, and in particular tonight. I will call it out and demand that we as elected members hold ourselves to a higher standard. The matter of public importance, MPI this evening, Madam Speaker, was an important topic to many people in the Northern Territory community, especially the victims and survivors of the stolen generation. So the national apology 17 years ago was indeed a matter of public importance for today. Madam Speaker, the absolute rubbish and disrespect by the member for Barkly, who I used to think conducted himself with integrity and honesty, who I held in high esteem, has just sunk to an all-time low in his contribution made tonight. Madam Speaker, seeing the member for Katherine stand to contribute to the MPI tonight made me think that now, maybe because she's a minister, she's going to show some genuine empathy in her contribution about stolen generation in the Territory. And what came out of the member for Katherine's mouth could not have been further from the truth, with a lack of empathy, respect and care for the MPI topic. I'm disgusted by the member for Katherine's contribution. If this is the way CLP ministers think it is appropriate to contribute to such a traumatic part of history in Australia, then what are they going to think about the rest of the Territory for the next 4 years? And to top it off, Madam Speaker, the member for Nelson, who is the Deputy Chief Minister of the Northern Territory, was laughing when the member for Johnston was making her carefully considered, genuine and heartfelt contribution to the matter of public importance. Madam Speaker, all week the member for Nelson has been acting in an unprofessional manner, being rude and absolutely disrespectful in his behaviour, in his words, and I hope that Territorians call him out on this. I certainly am, and I will continue to do so. Growing up, Madam Speaker, here in the Territory, I was taught by my parents to be respectful to everyone. And now, Madam Speaker, I have zero respect for the member for Nelson, who I used to think was a decent person, but now I am struggling to find a word to describe how pathetic his behaviour has been, and he is in the second most highest decision-making job in the Northern Territory government. The outright arrogance, Madam Speaker, and pure nastiness that has been on display all this week by many of the CLP members has been astonishing. Sometimes I have struggled to find words to describe it. One can only assume, Madam Speaker, this is the poor behaviour and is sanctioned by the CLP leadership. No leadership shown by our Chief Minister, Lia Finocchiaro, with unruly comments thrown around the chamber and the bad behaviour that has been displayed by her CLT team, who were so disciplined in the lead-up to the election and now have been so unruly. This has caused me, Madam Speaker, to feel harm and insecurity and a feeling of being unsafe in this very special and privileged workplace that we get to go in every day.
Laughing again.
Madam Speaker, the immature and disgusting poor behaviour of the Deputy Chief Minister, Gerard Maley, the member for Nelson, has been appalling, and it makes me wonder why someone so immature could be entrusted with the honour of being the second in charge of leadership in the Northern Territory government. Madam Speaker, if my mum was still alive, she would describe the member for Nelson as a baby brain. Madam Speaker, I will remind the member for Nelson that when he was reliving his trauma of the Cyclone Tracy experience in this chamber last year, he had the support of every single member in the chamber, including me and my Labor opposition members. Can you say that again? I'm a loser.
Madam Speaker.
I'm a loser. Say it again. Go and say it again.
Would you take your seat, Leader of the Opposition? Member for Daly, what's your point of order?
46. The Deputy Chief Minister has said an offensive word, calling the Leader of Opposition a loser, and I'd ask for him to stand and withdraw.
Deputy Chief Minister, could you withdraw that? I didn't hear it, but if you said it, would you withdraw it? Please continue, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Sorry,
and I will
please take your seat. What's your point of order, Member for Drystar?
Point of order. The opposition leader just referred to the Deputy Chief Minister as a pathetic little something. If she could stand and withdraw that comment.
I did hear her say that. It wasn't picked up at the time. Look, I don't... For the sake of fairness, could you withdraw that, please, Leader of the Opposition, just for the sake of...
Withdraw. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
I will remind the member for Nelson, who's just called me a loser, in the very moment that I was sharing that during the Cyclone Tracy contributions last year in December, the member for Nelson clearly had the support of every single member in this chamber, every single member, including myself, including my Labor opposition members, Madam Speaker. And tonight, the member for Nelson continues with his bad behaviour and his unruly words. Tonight, in the MPI, the member for Nelson has disrespected every single Labor member who spoke on the topic, which many of our families, friends and colleagues and constituents have had experience of trauma, not just from one single weather event, but from years and years and years of traumatic cycle and traumatic events in their life, Madam Speaker. So the understanding and the lack of empathy from the member for Nelson, again, is astonishing, the lack of, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm often asked by family and friends and constituents, and at times even strangers, how do you do it? How do you put up with all that crap? Madam Speaker, my answer is usually pretty standard, and I say automatically, I have really good support around me, which helps me to do what I love. Madam Speaker, I must admit that if someone asked me that very same question tonight, I'd probably say, I honestly don't know. I ask myself, how do you put yourself and your life work away from your family and your friends to always expect the best in everyone, only to find that in the sacred, hallowed halls of the Northern Territory's Parliament House, the lawmaking body of the NT, that a high standard is not expected of your government. I have enjoyed the banter and the friendly theatre of Parliament. That is something I learned from the former CLP member for Daly, Gary Higgins. A conversation with Gary Higgins I had many years ago, Madam Speaker, shaped the views on how I view this place today even. That the theatre can happen, the fun can happen, the jives can happen, but the real work happens behind the scenes with the relationships you build with fellow members of Parliament, away from the spotlight, away from that 15 to 20 second grab on the news. And at any one time, this is what Gary said, Madam Speaker, he said to me once, at any one time, there are only ever 20 other people in the Northern Territory who know what you're going through as a Member of Parliament. And I wish some of the CLP members could have a chat to Gary and learn what I call a true country Liberal. Madam Speaker, I've been the member for Arnhem for nearly 9 years, and it has always been an honour and an absolute privilege to represent fellow Territorians, many in my electorate who are my family, not just a job. I feel an obligation to do my best, to try my best to make things happen in the electorate across the Territory for the better. Now, 6 months into the NT election, I still feel absolutely humbled to be the member for Arnhem, and I'm also truly honoured to be the Northern Territory Labor opposition leader. However, I feel deflated this week with the dawn of reality that my high expectations of a new government, regardless of the different values that we may sometimes have, that the CLP government will not act in the best faith of Territorians. But tonight, Madam Speaker, has also ignited the fire in me, remembering that hundreds of Territorians who don't have their voices heard or listened to are counting on our Labor opposition, as my mum would have said if she was alive, to do our best and to respect everyone. Madam Speaker, when we talk about the concerns that are raised, the questions that have been asked of us as Labor opposition to the CLP government, we want to make sure that Territorians are not ignored or forgotten. And I stand here to pledge that my Labor team and I will work hard for you every day to make sure you are not forgotten by the CLP government. And I'll finish with this thought, Madam Speaker, tonight. It can take years to build up respect and trust, yet both can be completely lost in a matter of moments. I have completely lost respect for many members of Parliament in this chamber this week, many of whom for the past years, whilst I still didn't agree with them, I absolutely respected them. I lost respect for any claim of their own integrity. I've lost respect for any of them as members. I've lost respect for any of them as people, as fellow humans. And I've lost respect for them as I will not accept their poor words or their behaviour. Not now and not ever.
I will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. I will not. And the government will not be lectured about sexism and misogyny by this man. Not now, not ever.